These persons were very much competent in doing their work. But we all know at some point in time, the biological clock have a run down. And to be doing these long hours, nobody questioned the chuck. If you make it be a hint, to say, why not do so much? And then look at the condition in which these persons would have conducted themselves. I know the brigades, because I think there's a place in New Kingston that houses the Cubans. I don't know if they're still there. No, but I know it was there. All right. And nobody seemed to have realized or took it upon themselves.
When Harry finish your comment.
To take it upon themselves to look and say, why is this so? Especially the initial agreement. Because this is ridiculous. This is beyond modern day slavery, you know? And as you go through the document and read more and more, you realize that these people was caught beyond between a rock and a hard place. Do they stay? And also, if the brigade or if the regime knew you were competent enough and you didn't sign, best believe that probably would have been the last of you. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So when they go and make a stance to say we would want to negotiate with these persons after the contract runs out, to deal with them directly, it is a stance and a humanitarian stance to ensure that these people can get their full remuneration, to ensure that they can actually get the life that this deal between both countries were set
one of
out
the
for.
simplest sticking point, Harry, for me, not even the pay as much, but to say, let the people keep their travel documents so they can move about as they feel like.
No, but that is the thing in a truck.
How is that a sticking point?
Because all right, you see the whole traveling documents thing is one in which they have to hold you. It's trafficking, you know. The moment you hold somebody's document and restrict their movement, it is part of the definition with trafficking, right? It's just that operating within the space, the overarching system, which would be Jamaican system, may not know. So you would have been brought in under legal terms, but the brigade enforces what the regime in Cuba wants. So in the macro scale of it, everything seems fine. So we're not going to question it because, you're going to a new country, you have your representative and we expect that they'll treat you accordingly. Not realizing, say, yo, a strictly slavery are gone. Because that is what it was. And even if, this is the other partner, even if you get your documents, Chuck, you cannot travel outside a specific location. So again, you are still restricted fully.
You can't travel, you can't form relationship unless given permission.
Exactly. And in fact, when
if
you
a
go
Cuban
back,
doctor, you meet one little Jamaican girl where you're like, you have to go back home and ask.
Yep.
No, the supervisor have to vet the process and then send it up to their head. And if they approve of you, not of the person where you get married to, if them approve of you, which one of the things would have been is that depends on how you work and how you comply, and also how much money them can get off of you. So basically a head count. Then they will decide, because no, it would have be like you have a prize bull, and you want to know out of all of the bull that you have, which one can bring in more money. You not gonna let go that bull, eh? So that is exactly what the brigades then do, which are within, in terms of the supervisors are part of these brigades. So this was really a structured slavery system. And I say that with my chest, my back, my everything. That is exactly what it is.
I agree. It was an evil act. But hold on, Harry. Let me hear. Oh, sorry, Punkos. Empress wants to something, and then we come to you, Punkos. Let me hear Empress, and then we come to you.
Okay.
Empress.
At the end of that where you were reading, Harry, it is quite interesting at the end of where mine is. I think it's 11. The end of where you finish at 10, it said, Doctor will act at home. The following clause stand out, right? And this is something to think of. It said, they make the worker commit to not practicing private medicine in Jamaica. Grant the MINSAP, which is an acronym representing broad power to act on his or her behalf, and as his or her legal representative in Jamaica, travel back to Cuba at the end of the contract and during vacation period, as well as on the designated airline. Surrender his or her passport to the chief of the Cuban medical mission upon arrival in Jamaica. Receive a salary of US 2,100, kept 200 for housing, and remit 50% of the balance, which is US 950, to the UCCM bank account. Submit to the MIS SAP representative on a monthly basis. Fee of the income receipt paid by Jamaica within 10 days of receiving the salary, a sworn statement to confirm it, and proof of the bank deposit of the remitted funds. They're supposed to receive 100% of their fixed salary in Cuba, which was at the time 1.139 Cuban peso per month, which was less than 50 US dollars in 2018, and today it's less than $4. Comply with disciplinary process, which the document does not clarify, but are understood as part of the regulation of collaborators. Now, guys, I'm telling you, if you comb through this document, it is disgusting.
And then
It is
Empress,
disgusting
you
to
leave the
say
other
the
part,
least. I left out a
the
part.
part where they control the rate, the exchange rate.
Yeah, the exchange
So
rate. Yeah,
They
the
control the
exchange
exchange
rate.
rate.
You understand?
this
So basic. God, go ahead, Harry. It's bad.
What do you mean they control the the
them
exchange rate?
them tell you what the rate at the time when this was done, it was 150 Cuban pesos per US dollar, right? At the time in terms of additional wages, and the market rate is more than double that. So them literally hold the people them hostage. Like, this is a situation where is that you can't get out. There's no way out.
You
So
you you
this
know
is
the
one of the things in a Chuck why you see me dismiss Blair when him say him not accept the document or just three people. This is three persons who willing to die to give the information as much as their names weren't given. They know that based on
They
documents
know the
submitted.
danger.
Because believe it or not, they can find who these persons are. The documents and whatever slips are there, even if the names are not there. That regime, if they want them, can go dig up any document they want and find the similar page.
And that is why when Rusty asks about their choice to return home, it has to do with most of them have them family back home. Yeah. And if they don't go, their family will be punished.
2 to 8
That's
years.
how this regime works.
Yeah, but Chuck, I'll come back to Mr. Blair, even though I'm gone. I think it's worthy of repeating. The fact of the matter is, Blair take exception to people referring to Michael Manley in name other than Michael Manley, right? Because Blair them and that type of people, they want to etch Michael Manley name into the Hall of Fame of Jamaica. Nothing bad must be said about him. Joshua, big up yourself. Nothing must be said bad about him. And all things glorious, and all things glorious, and all things positive must be said about him. But the same Blair sit on other platform, disrespecting Siago, disrespecting Andrew Old, disrespecting Tufton, disrespecting all JLP minded people, right? And in the move one bit, but he take exception to people saying things about Michael Manley, right? But the Lee Kuan Yew said the same thing about Michael Manley. Lee Kuan Yew said Michael Manley was a no good, my word.
What about over here, Pungos? Pungos?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not
Pungos.
long, you know. Big up everybody. Look here now. 2003, me the guardsman at work. I work at the LDC JPS. For those who know out there, sort of 6 Mile, right? And there was two Cuban guys as engineers I work out there. But linesman I work out there too. And me and one of them develop a nice, bridging ship and thing. And one day he come to me and say, boy, he say, my friend, you won't see me again. And I say, why? He say, boy, him time up. So I say, oh, yeah, go back to Cuba thing. Him say, him should have gone back from 7 years ago. What happened? Him get a Jamaican girl pregnant. As you see a supervisor, he say, out there, report back to the Cuban government, so him get a girl pregnant, right? And when he go back, he never knows they report him, So when he go back, they lock him up. And then the judge banish him from Cuba. It's 7 years. You understand me? And him have to pay a fine. You see, when him return, him say when him return to Cuba, he go spend time in a jail again when he go back to Cuba. Right? And the judge will decide if his son can visit or not. Remember, throughout the time when him did it, he must pay the Cuban government money, And the other 7 years when them banish him to Jamaica, Right? He must pay the Cuban government money. I'm going to pay a fine and jail time in a Cuba when he go back. And then he must go ask if his son can come visit him. And if he never agree to the terms and conditions, his mother and his sister and his other family members will get imprisonment in a Cuba. And they don't do nothing, So these are the type of people we are dealing with. So when people make it look like, say, boy, Jamaican government fool, we had to agree and adorn to the Geneva Convention because the whole heap of laws that them are broke. And if we continue with this, we are party to the breaking of the laws, and people don't know that.
And me agree, but like Harry, the thing where me want to know is how we are just learning this now. That part there, I pressure me, How we just learn this now? How we
Is it the timeline? Or maybe just come and say, is it the timeline of this document, which Empress can confirm for me? I think it's July 2025.
Yes,
right?
2025.
July 2025, yeah.
Right.
2025.
Which is just before just after we started, going through negotiations and trying to figure out, what is a better deal going forward.
But Harry, remember when the American Secretary of State was coming here and they branded the program as human trafficking. All of us was saying that is not true.
Yeah, man. So
that's why I disagree with the branding of it as human trafficking.
Which is why I look on in terms of the date, and this is me going through it and look at what it was. Now, there has to be a whistleblower somewhere in this. Whether this document it's putting together and information from it was slipped to somewhere, but it can't be just that we get up as an administration and start to go through things and start to say, hey, we need a better deal out of the blues, right? It means something or someone. It can even be somewhere from the US, because the US were very strong on this time.
Here's what I think triggered it, Harry. I believe that when the US Secretary of State came here, when they sat in that meeting, the US government would have said something and the Jamaican government would have said, no, sir, this can't be real. Let's go, and then we have to go look back at the contract.
No, Chuck, they were the ones who blew it, the US.
Yes.
Because remember, it's not only Jamaica that they serve, right? If you read this document, they're all over the world. So that's how Cuba has been benefiting by educating these people and sending them out as educated servants and slaves. If you look at it like that.
And how is it that places like Guyana, and this is where we cannot avoid putting the blame squarely at Michael Manley and the PMP's foot. Why is it that our contract is equal to slavery, while other Caribbean countries, including Barbados, have different version of the same contract?
You know what I'm digging. I'm as much as I'm here working, I'm digging because Chuck, what I'm looking at with Mia, there's no clear place where Mia had discontinued her relationship with them, but she did speak out clearly to say, hey, I benefited during COVID, that they helped us, hadn't been for them. But I would want to think that since learning recently in the election, that's when I learned, because I'm not in the political thing, I'm just starting to read. But she would have benefited over the years too, right? But when did she break off and start paying them as she would pay the doctors in Barbados? It would be interesting because they're in Ghana, they're all over West Africa, they're all over. It's not only the Caribbean. And it was Washington who came out and said, hey, you know what, we're going to look into the enslavement. And she jumped up and she said, oh, no, you know, I wish, I don't care if my visa is canceled. We don't have any here. And then they
Yeah, but at the time she didn't have any Cuban
no, she didn't have any
medical mission
Cuban.
in
No, she didn't
Barbados.
have
She
any
didn't have
Cuban
any.
there. No, she didn't have. But I'd want to find out if she had at all and had sent them back home. That's my concern.
Joshua,
Greetings, everyone.
greetings, sir.
Joshua.
I must say that I owe the U.S. government, even though I never spoke on it in any way, I had it in my mind, an apology. Right? Because, as you rightly mentioned, I had concerns when I heard Marco Rubio speaking. I have never had this discussion with anyone, never uttered how I felt, whether it be privately or publicly. But in my heart, I had concerns. I thought it was overreach, you know, but now that we have gotten more information on the other side of the coin, not only do we owe Marco Rubio an apology, but we owe the modern day enslaved people an apology. Having said that, there are a couple of pointers, starting with Blair. You see, Blair faces so far up his own ass that he can smell nothing but feces. And I know he hears this, and I know he's listening. So I'm not going to apologize about what I said. His face is so far up his own ass that he can smell nothing but feces. Blair is nothing but a hypocrite and a big load of effluent. That's what he is. And I, Joshua, says so.
Right? Yeah, you come blazing this morning, brother.
No, man. You see, let me tell you something. I rarely step out like this, you know, my brother. But it's not because I'm afraid. I believe in being cordial. That is usually my go-to first. But when people can see people being enslaved, and in the name of their party and in the name of protecting their party, people suffering mean nothing to them, then I have no responsibility to be cordial to such an idiot.
True. Can't say, I can't say about the call Joshua, Michael Manley, a baboon. That's all matter to him.
Michael Manley is a load of SHIT, and he's a charlatan and a thief and a murderer.
Joshua, you know my description, you know my feelings about Michael, you know. Me telling you say probably about back in then time there's about 1 penny. 1 penny could have saved Jamaica that whole heap of problem. Just a penny.
Yeah. Now, you know why Blair and myself not as close as we used to be one time? And I'm going to mention this publicly now. Dujan referred to Mark Golding in a particular way one day. And Blair called me because Blair had my number then before I changed number. Called me behind the scenes and we reasoned about it. And when I listened to what he said, Dujan said, I told him I agree with everything except the expletive. That's what I told him. And he was upset because Dujan was speaking how he felt about Mark Golding. And outside of the expletive, I never have any issue with it. And he was angry because this white.
Would you mind if I ask what that was, that description that Dujan made? I didn't. Can you?
It was rather rough. I don't remember the total description, but it was kind of rough.
Right.
But right. But when you see, we have a modern day house slave in the form of people like Blair, right? Who don't care about their own people. All they care about with their evil, despicable self is for their party to be in power and everybody else suffer, and they reap the bounty of this country. And they don't care who dies, who lives, so long as they
Guys, tap up the
make
screen,
it.
send on a heart me.
Right?
A lion,
That's
a tiger,
what-
a bear, if
that-
you don't have one. Either tap the screen and
That's
send the
how
lion.
people
You know,
like
I'm not
Blair,
choose.
especially Blair. I used to have a certain amount of
Jamaica,
respect for
man,
Blair
big
one
up
time.
yourself.
You know. I used to have a certain amount of respect for Blair one time, and I can say this publicly without any form of apology, that I have 0.0 respect for him. Because when you can put your party above people's well-being, it therefore means that you have no integrity, no honesty, nothing that's good about you.
But
You're
Joshua,
a piece of shit and
why
a
are you,
garbage.
Joshua? Why are you surprised by that stand when we know that the PNP and their supporters tell us that it's PNP then family? The
Listen.
parties above them family.
No,
So
I
why
thought
are you
that Blair
so,
was
why are you so
different.
surprised?
I thought that Blair was different. Blair is nothing but a piece of
What
trash.
give you that idea?
Yeah. Let me
Right?
understand it, Joshua. Joshua.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, you know, when Blair and Ingram and them and Collins and them and link up, you know, it's a different party that, you know, it's a different
And I'm
coming
saying-
together that, you know.
I'm saying, even Ingram seemed to have a little more compassion than Blair. And I'm not saying that he does, you know. But on the outside, it seems like he does. Right? Blair can put
Between
party in
England
front
and
of
Blair is
people.
a tie.
You can put party in front of people suffering.
None are better.
This-
None are better.
A true man, yes,
Well-
yes, Empress. None of them are better.
Hey,
All of
You
them
know,
are the
another
same
reason-
battle.
you know another reason why Blair come out swinging, in addition to the party, what they need to tell you is that the person in charge of the dialysis unit at Jackden Road, at Jackden, is a Cuban that they brought in. The person who is in charge down there of the dialysis unit is a Cuban. So because Dennis Gordon is involved in perpetuating an evil, them can't come speak against it. Right? And
But Joshua,
I tell you this.
there
Yes,
are
ma'am.
more than one. There are more than
No,
one Hispanics
No,
there.
I'm not. No, man, I know,
Oh,
right?
okay.
Now, why we got to this? Someone asked the question: why is it that Jamaica's negotiation was different? Right? Because Manley wanted to be leader of the Caribbean. Manley was the one that walked around the entire Caribbean promoting these communist ideals that they lied about and said it was supposed to be socialism, democratic socialism. That's an oxymoron, by the way. Right? Manley was the same one that caused, between he and Trevor Monroe, that caused Maurice Bishop and the Prime Minister before him to have lost their lives. Right? For those who want the document, just simply read CIA.gov and you will see it there. Plus, there are videos with Manley holding an M16 in his hand. You guys can go and look it up. Right? Now, and that is what they were trying to do. Now, I hope these wretches look out and see what is happening to Cuba. And for those of you who still want to flirt with the idea that Jamaica would have been better, look at Cuba as a microcosm of what Jamaica would have been had we gone down that pathway, right? And not just a microcosm, but that you and your children, well, not people like Blair, because Blair would have held esteemed position and he probably would have been one of those supervisors who sell out the people, right? He would have, yes, of course he would have been. He would have been one of those supervisors who sell out the people and help to enslave them, right? Now, for the benefit of those, I pulled up some information that I want you guys to read. That spoke about how I just simply type in how does Cuba discipline dissidents, right? And you will find some very interesting information. So for those who do not abide by the rules, how they treat them, it can go as far as them losing their life. People are locked up, people are beaten, and all of these things.
Joshua, I
Why?
don't know. I said it, Joshua. I said it all the while that follow international news. Me follow international politics. And I remember incident a couple of years ago, the Elian Gonzalez incident in the I don't know if you remember that incident.
Yeah, man, I remember in the 90s.
Yeah. When the little boy that was taken off the boat that was cast floating at sea, and he was to be returned, and his father said they should send him back. And at the time, the U.S. Attorney General was a lady named Janet Reno. And she said, if you want back your son, we have no problem sending back your son. But you have to come to America, stand in freedom, and then tell us that. Right? And most of the back and forth then, I could not understand. And his father, I think his father's name was Juan Miguel, went to America and brought home his son. And people were saying, why did he go back far? And then you have to bear in mind that he had a family back in Cuba, where if he went over there and run off, his family would pay the price for him running off.
Yeah,
I thought he was no.
That's true.
Yeah, it was a political ploy. Yes, gracious. But it was the significance of it at the time.
You see,
right?
one of the things,
lots of these people just want to leave, but the cost of you leaving sometimes is too great to pay.
And then there's also the flip side to there is the Stockholm syndrome, which takes effect after a long while, because people like that lady who owned the eyeglass place in Jamaica. What's her name again?
Fla.
Right, same one. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Despite the sufferings that they face, she's very loyal to the regime still. Very, very loyal. In fact, that lady tell lie upon me one time and screenshot part of a conversation between me and she in the message and carry it to Blair. And until I sent the full information to Blair, I could have been left. It's a good thing I had saved it. And not only saved it, but I had screenshot and kept the entire conversation with our lie itself. There are persons there who still defend the regime loyally.
Well, whatever you see, whatever the reason, Harry, whatever the reason is for the review, I am glad it come now. I'm glad the Jamaican government decides to listen to me. This cannot and will not continue, and we have to make a change. As I said, I hope.
Chuck, just excuse me a bit. I want to say to the Jamaican people that now more than ever, you should look into all of these things and realize that it's only one party that began out of concern for the rights of people and laborers, which is the Jamaica Labour Party, which came out of a union because it was concerned about people's rights. And it is still that party that cares about human rights today. The PNP doing business with human rights. When them tell you about socialism is best, see a classic example of Cuba there right beside us. And this is what the people are facing. You ask ourselves if Mr. Siaga, that PNP demonize and tell lie on, had not stepped up against Michael Manley, if this wouldn't be the exact thing that you and your family would be facing today, and I land right there.
Lashika, my dear.
Before you let in Lashika, if you want to do that, Chuck, it is to be noted that if you look at the posture as a Cuban in terms of people who disagree with them and abandon their policies, and the same posture the PNP adapt in terms of people who disagree with them. Yeah, they say all manner of things, they will do things to in a very physical form.
But Paul Stewart, you never hear Craig Oates last week.
Yes, man.
Saying the same thing that when he left,
yes, man.
The demonization that he faced. And Lawrence Rowe, we see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And remember somebody else had. I remember this lady that says if you switch, you're going to end up in a ditch. So it's true.
Yeah, man. So those are what you are seeing and what you are hearing about all the Cuban chief people who disagree with their policies and their leadership, or they treated them. This is not unique to them. This is how the PNP operate, right? As I said before, what the PNP don't want to never have anything about Michael Manley, because what they want to do is to etch Michael Manley in the annuals of decency and good leadership and all these type of things. Anybody who say anything otherwise, if you are on their turf or in their place, you have to leave, you have to do this, you have to do that, and you can't see around. While we are asked to believe that when they criticize and say bad things about Sierra and about Angela and about Bruce and about Buster, we are asked to be that they are just merely criticizing them. And this freedom of speech.
You see, the problem is, Paul, the problem is, and I said this over and over, is up until a couple of years ago, there was nobody speaking publicly on the behalf of the leaders of the Jamaica Labour Party.
Sure.
Exactly.
More if you understand. Chuck.
Yeah, protected.
I want those of us, because I understand your position, Chuck. So you want to have conversation with comrades to prove a point. More if you understand my side. For 32 years, PMP were having conversation among themselves and forming their own narrative. They never have no conversation with no labor right. And guess what? The entire Jamaica and the entire world believes that them established Jamaica.
That's true.
They were having conversation with themselves. They may not
no, it's not that they were having conversation amongst themselves, protected. They were having conversation. PMP is involved in any group that will have them.
And that's the point.
Will have them.
So we don't need
1,000 labor right. One PMP they go whisper something.
Yes.
Yeah, but Chuck, my brother, what the PMP did, they went to these groups to present their narrative. They never go for have discussions. Okay? They went to present their narratives to get the people to believe what they want them to believe. And it was a lie. Now that we have a truth, I don't need to join a conversation with a comrade to present our narrative. Present our narrative as long as possible, as often as possible, and force people to go research until people now start to understand and believe what we have to say.
Politics and sports.
No, I will continue to hold this view that if we do it often enough, if we do it long enough, people will in their own time begin to do their own search to find the truth, and the truth is struck.
Thank you, Kerry.
Once you have knowledge of something for yourself, nobody can change your mind on it. Already, they were fed a diet of lies for over 3 decades. It is our time now to present the truth to them. Let them contrast it against what they already learned, and then they will make up their own minds. And guess what, Chuck? We're winning. We think we're sitting down talking to ourselves, but we're not. We're winning. We are winning.
I agree with you, but here's another way of it. There are persons where we have to try to reach, and guess what? You have some people follow behind, let's say Hugh Blair. We have some people follow behind Hugh Blair, that they will not come and listen to a Chuck talk unless Chuck talk to Hugh Blair. Yeah, so they follow behind Blair, but they not believe in a Blair, but a him them follow. They will not come and listen to Chuck talk unless Chuck talk to Hugh Blair. So how do we reach that audience without having a talk, no matter how painful it might be with a Blair? Sometimes we have to talk with our key.
Chuck.
If Caution follow Blair come over here. If Caution follow Blair come over here. We can't convince. We can't convince Caution.
I follow the person, man. Oh, God, man, protect you.
Can't convince.
Of all the person about Caution, they go to.
Yeah, if Caution follow. Well on the Paul. If Caution follow Blair come over here. We can't convince Caution to stop living in car and living in worthlessness. If O'Keefe follow Blair come over here, we can't tap O'Keefe from stop following transgender behavior. We can't stop them. They believe in what they believe.
But protecting your name out the apology for lack of a better term. Your name out the sorry,
the bottom feeders has come and
the worst of the worst.
But Chuck, you don't realize that when you Blair they are them down in I sit in a chat. Not them?
Welsh.
But there are others. No, there are people
but
who
just
listen.
People are going to find us anyway, Techie. Every time you put on your live, Chuck, new people pop up on it and learn something.
Yeah, man.
Chuck,
But Chuck,
Yes, we have new followers.
Chuck,
But like
Chuck,
I said, they are people that go around and they follow. Just like how you have people who walk past when we attack, you have people who walk past when them attack. And they are inclined to listen to those people. And the only way they will hear a Chuck is when Chuck attack to one of them.
Chuck,
yeah.
there are 190 people on right now. Do you think those people are all labor rights of listening?
No, they're
Absolutely
not.
not. So therefore, what it is you have to think about is to educate the people. Because since I've been on here, I went over there and I said, hey, I'm nobody and I want to learn. And guess what? I've been beaten up just to ask to learn. And sitting in this space, I've learned so much. So bottom line, 190, they're listening, Chuck. They are listening.
Yeah.
And you only have to bring the fact and the information so people, and if sometimes people are working, and I work for myself, so I can be on the phone and be doing whatever, but at the same time, there are a lot of people working and listening. You read the information, you tell them where to find it, and if you're friends with them, pass it on. Bottom line.
But
I think it's my time to speak now, please.
Sorry, yes, go ahead. Let us hear from Lashika. Shika, good morning, my dear.
Good afternoon, Joshua.
We will. No, you sleep on last night, so I'm going to tell you good morning.
What is that, darling?
We will talk. I'll talk to you in a few. Mr. Carl Fry.
Oh, Lord.
All right, no problem.
All right,
Joshua
so
alone,
I wanted to.
Uncle Joshua alone.
I said good afternoon to everyone. A pleasant afternoon to everyone. Special good afternoon to Omalo, Paul, Travi, Protecting
You want to talk to
JA.
Joshua later? All right, no problem.
Hi, wonderful.
All right.
Yeah, we can hear my name on the special list, but me not hear it.
They have me done that, Chuck. And an extra special good afternoon to Chuck Finley, MP.
And I hear that my word extra special. Take that.
Yes, you get. What left? After me get permission to call later. What
Can you hear my name? Hold on. Wait, what's going on here?
I did call your name, Travi. Travi, you know, hear me say a special Joshua. You know what Chuck get?
Travi one special, but mine extra special.
Joshua, you know what Chuck get? You know, in time you mix some juice, and when you share the juice, you realize a lot of sugar left in the bottom, so you just add some water upon it and just.
Hey, that time the soup, it's only sweet. It's sweet without substance, not true. Got the nutrient gone.
So, oh my God, Joshua, you mix some it up. No, Dean, none at all, Dean. Send me a lie and make me know say me not give a bun. But anyhow, I wanted to read something to you guys because I've been listening to the conversation from morning, and it sounds very familiar with something that I've been looking into, and that is the human trafficking law of Canada. And I'm going to read a few sections from it, and you can see how the contract go against international laws, because this law that I'm going to read, it's not only in Canada. You know that laws often reflect from one country to another, right? So they take piece from here, piece from there. So I'm going to just read a few from it, and then you can see. So it says trafficking in a person. Every person who recruit, transfer, receive, hold, conceal, or harbors a person or exercises control, direction, or influence over the movement of a person for the purpose of exploiting them or facilitating their exploitation is guilty of an indictable offense or liable, right? So that is one aspect of it. Hold on, let me see. Wait, guys, sorry, I had the full thing up, but let me see.
People among us.
All right, there's another one where it says material benefit. right? Every person who receive a financial or other material benefit, knowing that it is obtained by or derived directly or indirectly from the commission of an offense under whatever section is guilty. Material benefits. Everyone
Guys,
who
get it to
receive
100,000 taps, please. 100,000 we go.
everyone who receive a financial or material benefit, knowing that it is obtained or derived by an in or indirectly the commission of an offense under whatever section. It says withholding or destroying travel documents. Every person who, for the purpose of committing or facilitating an offense under section, whatever, conceal, remove, withhold, or destroy any travel documents that belongs to another person, or document that establish or purports to establish another person's identity or immigration status, whether or not the document is of Canada origin or is authentic, is guilty of an indictable offense, imprisonment 5 years, and offense punishable. So it exploitation for the purpose of whatever section to exploit another person if they cause them to provide or to offer to provide labor or service by engaging in conducts that in all circumstances, but I'm just saying, I hope you kind of get what I'm saying. It may not be for sexual services, but they're basically exploiting these persons, and it just fits right into this human trafficking law, if you don't get what I'm saying.
We got you, Sheikah. State-sanctioned human trafficking.
Right.
You see, when you read that, I remember when there used to be this club in New Kingston, Club Martini. It was a gentleman's club, gentleman's club. And when you got there was these nice white-skinned Russian girls that used to perform there. That used to entertain the gentleman there. And it was shut down for that very reason, that these people were deemed as taking part in human trafficking. Right? No, not Gemini, Club Martini. It is sad, but what we discover is that the government of Jamaica has been a party to human trafficking for over 50 years.
Let me read this section, Chuck, and it says exploitation for the purpose of section, I listed section 2901, 27.01 and 27.03. A person exploit another person if they cause them to provide or to offer to provide labor or service by engaging in conduct that in all the circumstances could reasonably be expected to cause the other person to believe that their safety or the safety of the person known to them would be threatened if they fail to provide or offer to provide the labor or service. This is what the Canadian Human Trafficking Act says. It lists out exploitation, and based on the conversation that has been held from morning, it fits directly into it. Literally, if this was happening with a person in Canada, they would have been charged for human trafficking, among other things.
And we are then expected to look the other way because it is Cuba. I tell you. Go ahead, Joshua.
Okay. What you just said, I think probably it could be adjusted. Not a party, but actually an unwilling facilitator. Right? Whilst one regime may be more knowledgeable, one of the parties may be more knowledgeable, and we are not sure how much knowledge they may have had. The other side, I'm not so sure because of the relationship. Whilst we have always had a cordial relationship with our neighbor.
What we know, Joshua, about the Cuban agreement is that Michael Manley signed it in 1976.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was signed in 1975. It started in 1976. Jamaica Labour Party, Edward Seaga, ended diplomatic relations with the Cuban in the 80s. And all those Cubans had to leave Jamaica. So the agreement essentially ended then.
Right.
1990, the PMP restarted said agreement and they were in power for 18 years after that.
Right.
We had Bruce Golding in 2010, and I was reading where Bruce Golding actually started the Cuban I program in 2009. That was an extension of said program. But it says that Hugo, that was done in collaboration with Venezuela and Hugo Chavez. Hold on, let's find it. Hugo Chavez at the time with Venezuela. Where is it? I had it here somewhere. I can't find it, but I have it. But they said during that time they started a program that would have brought medical and another care right across the Caribbean, right? So it was done in collaboration with them and Venezuela for the Cuba I Care program in 2010. But I still have the question. When was the last time this agreement was reviewed? That one, you know. What was the process of that was the new Cuba agreement in the 90s? Yes, in the 90s, when Michael Manley came back to power, Bertie, he started diplomatic relations with Cuba, and that resumed the medical brigade. Right, but we don't know if it was renewed every 10 years. So between 1990 and now, that will be about 30 years.
36.
36 years. So would it have been a 30 years agreement, a 20-year agreement, a 25-year agreement? What was the agreement signed back in the 90s when they come? Or did they just revert to the old arrangement and not new was signed? Who decides how much doctor come to Jamaica?
I think it's worthy of research before we comment on it without the full information.
Yes. Who decide how much doctor come to Jamaica? Who decide how long them stay? 1993 to 2023, so that will be 30 years.
I want to say something, but I think Ari wanted to say something. If not, I'll go.
Just expanding the thing that you give, Ashika, regarding the definition, being that it would have been for Canada. So for persons listening, the UN have a general definition, and this is coming from the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, otherwise known as the UNODC. And it details human trafficking as the recruitment, transportation, transferring, harboring, or receipt of people through force, fraud, or deception. And I'm you focus on the deception part to exploit them.
Severe restriction on freedom. I'm looking at it right now.
Thanks for that.
So when you look at it, because the three factors there is the recruiting, which is an action, right? So we need the people, fine. The means, this is how Cuba come into play, the regime of Cuba, which is the coercion, and the purpose. So it was a dual purpose. So Jamaica thought we were getting, we're providing employment for fellow Cubans or fellow brothers, and then now we would pay them because they're also giving service to our people. Of course, it is also part of free movement regarding CARICOM to be able to get this service. Now, the deception part is where the Cuban regime played both the Jamaican government for some part and definitely the people. And the document Chuck will read earlier from the Cuban archive would have speak to this based on the activities that were carried out. All right? And we have to look on that specifically because this has been a multi-billion-dollar exploitation act or a trafficking act. I think it was 4.6 billion US thus far. Right? This would have been one of the most devastating trafficking act that played off as if it was a legal thing. And all the while, we're trying, remove trafficking and so on. This was happening in a US backyard,
Answer.
because whether or not we accept it, America consider with them backyard, it was happening right under the nose of CARICOM, and definitely potentially under the nose of our Jamaican
And
leaders
I
now
think,
until we
Harry,
confirm. Hmm?
and I think as well, that one of the things that allowed this to continue for so long is how sympathetic we are and empathetic we are with the suffering of the people in Cuba. So as you rightly said, we are here and saying, oh, we're providing employment, but at what cost? And what else are we
One of the things,
facilitating?
Harry,
What else are we facilitating and maintaining?
the title of this article, Harry, also grabbed me, It says, for World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, Jamaica should stop the exploitation of Cuban workers.
So Chuck, another thing that to add to what Harry was saying, you see, it says here that international standards often reference include the UN protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in person. And the other one is convention from the International Labour Organization on forced labor. Under this framework, human trafficking or forced labor can occur when a worker are recruited or employed under coercion, deception, or severe restriction on freedom, right? It says doctors often do not receive their full salary. The Cuban state reportedly keeps 90% of if the salary 70 to 90%, only give workers a small share. Doctors may receive part pay after returning to Cuba. Restriction of movement. Passports are sometimes confiscated. Movement monitored. Workers must follow curfew or restriction on contract with locals. Threats or penalties if workers leave the programs. Doctors who abandon the mission may face professional penalties or restriction on returning to Cuba. Some reports claim pressure or retaliation against their family. Lack of transparency in contracts. Did not see full contract term before deployment. Did not know their destination or working condition beforehand. Government control of workers abroad. Reports claim that Cuban officials sometimes supervise medical team abroad and monitors behavior to prevent defection or dissent. Human rights experts say this level of control resembles state-managed labor export, which may cross into forced labor.
So I have a question, Shika, and Harry, Joshua, you can probably give me an answer on this stuff. When Michael Manley rushed the issue to install free education at the university level, was this his next move for the Jamaican people? Was this where he was going with it?
I cannot.
Where he would educate and then slave out our people?
Same thing me say, and one PMP trick
you know-
me say I'm gonna kill me truck. Same thing me say. This is what Michael Manley was planning.
It's interesting that you should have asked that question in a truck, because when Sheikah was reading a while ago, my mind didn't go exactly to the free education at university level. And by the way, just so that persons may know, because Dina like to go up on his on live and claim that, oh, Michael Manley established free university. It wasn't universal free education at the university level. It was handpicked comrades, right, that got it, and you would still have to pay for your boarding after all of that. Right, so let it be known, right? But I was thinking about it to say, if Manley had succeeded, right, and I alluded to it earlier, all of this free education that, by the way, the Jamaica Labour Party was the one that started free education, but this free university across the board training, but as a reward for that, because of the regime's thirst for riches, because Don't fool ourselves. I saw a picture with Fidel Castro with a Rolex watch on his hand. And I'm talking about 4 years ago while the people in Cuba were suffering. And that's exactly what would have happened, right? When people would have gotten quote unquote so-called free education, but at a certain price, that freedom would no longer be freedom. It would be in exchange for enslavement, right? And the sufferings that we encountered in the 70s was a precursor to what was to come. It wasn't the full taste of it. For those of us who are past 50, past 55 and going up, right? We remember this thing clear as day. People like Blair who are apologists. Yeah, people like Blair who are apologists and liars for the PNP can come out and say what they want to say. But my memory serves me very well, very vividly, the sufferings of the 70s, right? And we would be going through the exact thing and far worse had Michael Manley succeeded. Thank God for Edward Philip George Siaga, and that is why they set out to demonize him so much.
The fact is, people like Blair, it's when these things come up, I think the first thing that comes to the mind is to, defend the party first. As I said, and I will say it, there's nobody, there's no Jamaican, any Jamaican you tell today, me sure Sheikah, I love the Jamaica Labour Party. Sheikah, you love the Jamaica Labour Party. If the government call you tomorrow and say you have to send back your pay, come make the Jamaica government hold it to you, you're going to tell them, say, F off.
I tell them to be unemployed.
All right. None of us will accept those arrangements for ourselves. Not even who in the chat are defend it or talk about this and that. We will never accept an arrangement like this for ourselves, for our family. Why are we so willing to accept it for the Cuban people? They have done nothing wrong. They have no choice in what is happening. They took what they thought was the way out, an education, a profession. Now here's a gentleman, Howard. I wonder how Howard feel about the ending of the Cuban agreement. Right? Howard, what do you think of it? You think it was due? Right? But we wouldn't accept it.
Chucky?
Why are we accepting it for somebody else?
Chucky, the defenders who are down in the chat talking is because they knew that they would have had special places in the regime had Michael Manley been successful in Jamaica in turning the country into this. I remember leading up to the 2016 general election, Damian Crawford was interviewed. I cannot forget that interview, right? And he was asked if the Jamaica Labour Party, either 2016 or 2010, I don't quite remember, or 2012, sorry. And he was asked if the PNP is still a communist party. Well, they didn't ask it in those words. They were saying that the PNP was accused of being a communist party and they flirted with communism in the past. If they have turned away from their communist past. Damian Crawford, Munch's friend, says that we have not stopped being a communist party. It's just that the Jamaican people cannot deal with it, so we don't mention it publicly. I remember that interview. Damian Crawford said so. Right? Michael Manley was an evil being. A lot of the credit that they give to Michael Manley don't exist. It's the Jamaica Labour Party's thing, but that's a different subject.
You know my feeling about Michael Manley every day I say it,
Yes, sir.
It's a single condom, one condom could have saved us a lot of heartache.
Chuck, hold on.
Chuck, you could have Chuck. Such men could have pull out too.
Chuck, I'm looking at this article here. It says written on March 7, 2024, Cuba's medical mission, a modern form of slavery. It's a question. It says Cuban doctors go with state secure agents. They must hand over their diplomas and their families remain in Cuba, hostages of the state. Let me read one part. The evidence presented by Javier Lorando, president of the prisoners' defender, the testimony of witnesses, doctors who were part of the program in different countries, and the testimony of European parliamentarians is overwhelming. This is why the mission have been categorized under contemporary form of slavery, forced labor, and human trafficking. The UN Special Reporter on Contemporary Form of Slavery and the Special Reporter on Human Trafficking. They all live together under surveillance with restricted schedules and the obligation to report any contact with people who are not members of the mission. They are accompanied by state secure agents who pretend to be doctors but perform intelligence function with the Cubans to control defection and political tasks entrusted by the receiving government, including whatever that word is. Whatever.
Spell it, Chica.
Proselytism.
Proselytism.
What is it? What's the meaning of that?
A convert. That's what it means.
Okay. The coercive design is like clockwork. Cuban doctors must hand over their diplomas and other documentation accrediting them professionally to the mission leaders to prevent their labor insertion in case they decide to abandon the mission. At the same time, their families remain in Cuba, literally hostages of the state, to reduce likelihood of desertion. The punitive instrument is the final part of the design. The totalitarianism chaining, abandonment of duties is punished with 8 years of imprisonment in Cuba, but if the offender does not return, they are declared a deserter. At the moment, the Ministry of the Interior declares them immigrated, which entails the total loss of rights, including property. Immediately following the declaration of undesirable, which prohibits entry to Cuba for 8 years and causes family separation.
So when Punko said a while ago that the gentleman was banned for 7 years.
Yeah.
Remember Punko said that his friend was banned for 7 years from re-entering Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
So we see it on the list. But let me say this.
Let me read this last part, Chuck.
Go ahead.
It's a good thing, but the legislation opens the possibility of losing parental rights as the new Family Code of 2022 stipulating that the deserter is susceptible to such punishment, enabling the competent authority to administer it as necessary. Hence, in June 2022, the Committee on Rights of the Child urged Cuba to end all separation of minors from their parents due to their decision to terminate a labor contract and amend their penal code to eliminate obstacles preventing family reunification. Because of all this, more than 5,000 children are separated from their fathers and or mothers for up to 8 years. The repressive mechanism is hermetic. Children are hostages of state in Cuba, while parents are hostages abroad. If they alter this condition, they face worse punishment they can suffer, not seeing their children grow up as testified tearful by witness in the hearing.
All right, so Shika, you mentioned 3 words that I'm not sure everybody understood. Susceptible is one, which means prone to, the other one is hermetic, which means to be left alone. And I don't remember the next one that you mentioned, but just to bring clarity to those words. What you just read a while ago about the spies who parade as something else, I don't remember what you mentioned that they paraded as.
Six, big up yourself, my boss.
Right. One of the things that we must, and Chucky would be fully aware of this, the home guard thing that was implemented in Jamaica was a classic example. It was basically a replica of that. Replica. Thank you very much.
Getting back on your shika.
Yes, I appreciate it. We hold each other's hand up, right? But it was basically a replica of it. Because the purpose of the home guard was really to spy on people who were not with the regime. Oftentimes you have heard Chuck and myself mention on these lives that what used to happen is that if you were found not to be a comrade, and by the way, the term comrade, that is how they refer to each other, people that are part of the regime in Cuba. They all refer to each other as comrades. You know, if you can look it up and see it for yourself, anybody who's listening to me, whether you're Laborites or PNP or you don't support any party, you can see it for yourself, right? If you were not a comrade at the time and the home guards found out, then some of these punishments that were mentioned a while ago by Sheikah, you would have faced it, but largely you would have not just isolated, which even today is happening in the PNP, that you're isolated from your family, not necessarily in the same way,
Joshua,
but you're ostracized. Yes, ma'am?
Hear this part of the article.
Mhm.
In Cuba, a healthcare professional must be willing to be a slave if they also want to be a parent to their children.
Wow. You hear that, Chucky?
Yes, I know.
No, you said knowing something and hearing it, you know, sometimes it carries a greater force when you hear it from somebody else.
So it's either you have to choose, Joshua.
Wow.
You have to choose.
My
Well, you don't have
God,
no
isn't it?
choice. You don't have no
And people
choice.
like Blair is going to make excuses.
And this is from, it is called the Havana Times. It's called the Havana Times open-minded writing. So this is basically, this is from, I attended a hearing of the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights. It was requested by Prisoners Defenders International, an NGO based in Madrid. You hear where I come from? Madrid, whose mission is to make visible and denounce human rights violation, mainly in Cuba. Precisely, the session was titled Cuba, Human Rights of People Participating in Medical Mission.
Yes, Philippines. Let me just expand. All communist states around the world, Philippines corrected me, and I will yield to the correction. All communist states around the world, barring none, they refer to people who are a part of the regime as comrades. And it tells you where we're heading. Well, they like to say comrade in arms. Right. So it tells you where we're heading. So when they deny it in one sense, their language speaks the language of communism. Right? And this is where we're heading. You know, this is the garbage that Michael Manley.
I don't ever agree to that. I don't know, sir. No, sir. No, Omalo, that cannot be correct. That statement cannot be correct.
No, Omalo, you're wrong. You're wrong, sir. You need to go back to your history.
Communism is basically what them say. It's a classless society where everybody is on the same level.
Right.
But in order for you to reach, but this is a problem, you know, where a lot of people don't do, you know. This is the problem where a lot of people don't do. A lot of people don't read Karl Marx or Edges to find out what he meant by communism, but we just refer to what we see government are practicing as communism. He said communism is the last state of capitalism. You must have capitalism to reach the state of communism.
All right, let me ask you something, Amalo. If a bunch of us come up here and say we are Christians, the Bible gives a definition of what Christianity is about. But as Christians, we smoke, we drink, cuss bad word, every woman we see pass. We want them. Don't you think that most persons would say, boy, me no want to be Christian because Christians are hypocrite?
Very
So
much
the book
so.
says one thing. The book says one thing, but we are living another. So the life speaks greater than words.
So I cannot go off of the practice of ignorance. The theory carried out by others, which is not the theory of the person, is ideology. Me can't go by that. I will never accept that.
You'd make a good PNP. At least today.
But let
Me
me
like-
read. Let me
like
read this.
Me like
Let me read
history.
this part. Let me read this part to you, Joshua and Omalo. If the U-turn from socialism to capitalist mode of production, as in the post-communist Europe transition, was aberration of Marxist thought, much more anomalous, would have been regression to slave production mode. For this is what Cuba's medical mission are. The part state has made history go against the tide of history.
I didn't understand that. For some strange reason that I got lost.
If the U-turn from socialism to capitalist mode of production, as in the post-communist European transition, was an aberration for Marxist thought, much more anomalous, would have been regression to a slave production mode. For that is what Cuban medical missions are. The part state has made history go against the tide of history.
That I got it in full. I can't tell you that
Mhm.
I got it in full, but what I will say is that the part that I got is the departure from capitalism to socialism, and
It says it's a U-turn. It's
it's
a
a
U-turn
U-turn.
from socialism to capitalist mode. That's what it says, as in post-communist.
So it's
do
not
this.
capitalism, it's capitalism mode, but not capitalism. Okay.
Right.
All right, let me read out this, guys. Let me read out this. This is a list of, this is 10 are the most common political ideologies and the meaning in a nutshell. It starts with conservatism, emphasizing tradition, stability, authority. That is conservatism. So Jamaica Labour Party we often describe as a conservative party because we believe in the tradition, stability, and that. Liberalism, focus on individuals' freedom, equality, and social progress. Socialism, advocate for collective ownership and regulation of resources. Communism aims for a classless society with no private property. As if this comrade want to live like that, give up the property. Nationalism, prioritize national interest and identity. Globalists, we know globalists already support international cooperation and global governance. Anarchists reject hierarchical Anyway, it rejects leadership. Hierarchical. So it relates leadership structure and advocate for individual autonomy that can work in today's world. Capitalism emphasizes free market and private enterprise. Fascism combines nationalism and authoritarian control. right? And the last one is an environmentalist. I think that's a political ideology, but to the panelists, right? So that's the difference between all of them, right? So in terms of Cuba now, which is a communist, classless, but is Cuba classless?
But you see,
Can the regime?
it is the wrong thing Cuba is doing because in harder, that's why the great Edward Seago tell us say take cash to care. That is why you see the elevation of the Scandinavian country them. Because when Marx, according to Michael Hudson and Richard Wolff, these great professors that wrote that are Marxists, they call them Marxist professors. These professors said that in order when Marx was writing communism about communism and socialism, because it is these people's theory, it is their theory. They were living in a capitalist society, and they said that capitalism would evolve into these type of things based on the built up of wealth, and everybody get around us living in this utopia, which is communism. But most of these countries start communism without having no wealth, and it can't work. You can't start something. You can't start living a utopia with nothing.
And that is why now, Omar, when you say is the end game of capitalism is communism.
Yeah, because
you don't need.
I'm just telling you.
No.
So let me read something.
A group of persons with nothing can form a commune.
All right, let me read something, Chucky. Right? Because since we're quoting writing, I asked Google when Karl Marx described socialism as the last stage, or more accurately, a transitional phase of capitalism leading to communism. He meant that socialism is the intermediate period where the working class takes control of the means of production to dismantle the capitalist system. So it really was not a part of it. It's a dismantling of capitalism, right?
Yes, I was coming up to say that. Yeah, that is correct. He felt like at some point we all would be capitalists and we will all be on the same level, and we will need to use like robots and all of them something eventually. That's what he believed. He believed that people wouldn't be doing the mandatory labor and all of that, and that we would all be equal, and then it would be turned into communism.
Yeah, it's a utopia political ideology. A man was writing, so you have to go and read Capital, something that Karl Marx Capital. Understand what he was.
All right. So while
you see, Stalin, just a minute. Stalin communism is different from China Communist Party. It's a total. You got to look at the system and how they operate.
All right. So whilst this discussion is useful, I want to make
one system, different interpretation.
Right. I want to make one final comment on it, and we'll go back to the Cuban situation, because I think that it is where we were. When we look around the world, there has been no form of communism that has been beneficial to the people on the ground. Absolutely none. Right? The people on the ground largely are like indentured servants, as it were. While you hold on, sir, let me finish. While you have a few at the top, when you even look at Russia, some of the wealthiest people in the world came from Russia. Same thing with China. Some of the wealthiest people in the world come from China, while the masses are a plateau. Can't go no further, because what they do, they give the little crumbs to the people at the bottom. Right? So what they do, they prevent...
Russia is not a communist country.
They prevent the people at the bottom from climbing, while those who are a part of the regime benefits. That is what, in practice, has been the communism and socialism. Now, having said that, we have kind of moved away from the discussion.
Russia's government is oligarch.
You cannot do that.
All right, so
Shika,
we have to understand. We have to understand these political terms and economic terms, and we can't just really, based on what we see, some people are practicing. We say this is what it is. It's not that I'm supporting communism or I'm supporting capitalism, because every one of them is created by man and every one of them have their flaw. Because 1% of America in America is at the top while the rest of people them working like serfs. All they are working is hand to mouth and they are fully in debt, yeah, and can't miss
Some
a
of the
debt.
people in America, some of the people in America just worthless and don't want to go, or we can go to their country and find prosperity and they cannot find it in their own country. That is a different story.
A whole of Jamaica go over America and suffer same way.
And it's the person is the issue. I feel it's the person. If they don't inherently have the drive and motivation, they won't succeed.
Is the issue. You have system like the Scandinavian countries that practice capitalism with a lot of social program within their capitalism. Don't operate the same way like America. They don't have the healthcare problem like America. They don't have education problem like America where they pay for certain things, college stuff and uncertainty. So it's the system is the problem.
Cuba have no perfect system. We don't have no one perfect political system, right?
Guys, let's go back
to man is fallible. As long as man is fallible, he can't create nothing perfect.
Shika, you have any other document that because I think persons are learning. In fact, I've been kind of following the chat. Oh, so somebody says I am the one. Please take it back to the valid discussion regarding the original topic, right? And
no, I don't have anything else, mother.
Chucky. All right, thanks. Chucky, you know, I want to commend you for shedding light on it, and I don't think that we should allow this to be a 9-day wonder. I listened to Out of Order and dishonest Dawes in the house the other day, disrespecting Desmond McKenzie and simultaneously trying to make the Minister of Health look bad, you know, while trying to deflect from the treachery against the state that Jack Den himself, Dennis Mitchell, and all of these communist people have performed against Jamaica, right? While simultaneously trying to bring up the Cuban doctor situation. And even when the minister explained to him that there are over 250 odd Cuban doctors who are still left in Jamaica and they have offered them individual contracts as opposed to going through the regular thing, he would not have any of it. He wanted to stay there. So since he wants to stay there, and this information is coming out now, I want to see how well they can fare against these damning allegations, which their party, the People's National Party, brought into being in the first place. You know, and I think we need to continue to bring attention to it and clarity to it. Not just attention, but clarity to it. And to discuss in a more probing way, you know, as we have wanted to do many times, right? So that people can begin to have a better view of the tragedy that has been meted out against the Cuban people. You know, and tragedy and travesty against the Cuban people.
Just a minute, Joshua. This morning we were talking to, what's his name? You. And I took the conversation in a different way and asked him a question, which he gave an answer stating that it is in Jamaica's best interest yeah, based on geopolitical situation that is happening in the world, to move on. Isn't that something that we should, if somebody is going to agree that we should move on, isn't that something we should have pivot on to let him make expound upon that, to let his people them that listens to him know that this is something in the interest of Jamaica and what the government have done. You, Blair, support it?
I don't think it's a matter of pivoting. I think it's a,
Yes.
sorry.
Hold on, Joshua. Sorry. I agree with Amala. I agree with Amala on this one. Because the salient point in what he says, that when he comes into agreement to a rival party and what is happening, and that it and can admit that it's better for the country, allow him to tell his people more.
Yes, trouble. We not talk. No.
Allow him to tell his people more. Let him know, preach to the choir he's been preaching to. From a different
program with your Travis.
Travis, I don't believe that we need to pivot. I believe it's a part of the total sum of the conversation. Because in order to show, because we have to make sure that we are adhering to the ILO conventions, you know, and we are protectors of human dignity and human rights. And if we if we go against those core principles of adhering to the principles of human rights, then it's not in Jamaica's best interest to do so either. So it's not a matter of pivoting from, it's a matter of including it as part of the total sum of the conversation. Right? So it doesn't have to be an or, you know. It can be an. Yes, sir.
The humanitarian side of it and why it's wrong. We see, you know, that's how we should have done it. Allow him to expunge, pivot and allow him to expunge on that. That does not mean the conversation ends there. But we just pivot for this part, and while we, you know, expound on that, then we continue in the direction that and I believe it would have been easier to travel with him in the direction that we're wanting to go. Right? Because he has already come into agreement, reason it out some more, right? Making himself more comfortable on this view. And then we move on from there. So it is not to say that we're going to stop right there at the end right there. So no. What you have said also is important. But you see, some points are bullet points, Sir Joshua, and you have to drive it home a bit before you go to your next point.
I am not averse to the approach that you have posited. I think whichever way works, I am for it. All I'm saying is that we don't need to exclude any part of it. You know, so whichever approach we choose, you know, both arguments, which is really one and the same, is critical.
Travis, if I had somebody understand inside of a courtroom and I get him to say this morning what he have said, and basically that was what we all want him to say, yeah? To make it known to his people that what the government did was in the interest of Jamaica. When I finish questioning it, then that is my client to walk out.
From the service of a Cuban nurse or a Cuban doctor, a Cuban health professional, and Jamaica is better for the Cubans having been here. There's no question about that, and we don't.
Hold on, the Chuck, Chuck. Here's another point that I would bring in support of pivoting at that point. Just to, you know, drive home that point a little bit more and then move on. If you remember when I called him out on the raising of the flag, he said point blank, not no so, and it's a two-state resolution that the PNP believe in. And I said no. And I show him, and I reference the article and everything. Boom. Give him back the floor. What he did is like unto what we did. Is this point now that is as entrap him. He tried to move on instantly to now be talking about the minister, and I had was to mute his mic and cut him off and say, no, you now go on to another point in an attempt to run from the one that you are wrong on just now. We have come back to that point here. Yes, so we did. And until we clear this and get it settled and sorted, we'll move to something else. It's the same as I believe Omalo is saying, that when we get him to this
All
point
right,
where we
let
admit,
me.
let's just deal with that, go around with that some more before we move on to the next thing, because we move on so quick. And the profoundness of the point of him admitting to that it is better will be lost upon a lot of people in a snap of a finger.
You were gonna say something, Chuck?
I was gonna ask now. I see a report came out recently where they I think is the Auditor General has presented a receipt where furnitures were imported in the name of the University Hospital at the West Indies, but they were shipped to an address on Lindos Road. Now, I don't know. I think my last child was born at the University Hospital. It wasn't at Lindos Road then. My mother did a surgery a little over a year ago. It was not at Lindos Road then. I don't know if since then they have relocated the University Hospital to Lindos Road. Maybe somebody here can tell me if that, maybe Omalo can tell me if that was done, right? But the address for the furnitures that were imported was Lindos Road, but they were imported in the name of the University Hospital. I don't know how can that be explained.
It's going to be explained by Mocha.
It's not an article, you know. It's a receipt that was presented, an invoice.
My brother.
I don't know if you were moving.
My brother, in the minds of certain members of the People's National Party, though the physical building remain in Mona, the equipment that probably is listed have been removed to Lyndhurst Road. Right, and what is so shameless and shameful simultaneously, shameless on the part of the PNP, but shameful for the country, is that these same people who are supposed to be purveyors of integrity are sitting in our houses, that House of Parliament, as it were, on the Public Accounts Committee, while simultaneously not giving proper account for why they have raided.
And Joshua, that is why I had called for the members of the Jamaica Labour Party, another civil servant, to refuse to sit in that committee, to be questioned by the likes of a Dawes, whose name is mixed up in this Jagden and Huey scandal.
Yeah. And while this rude young man, you know, he's a shame, he's an embarrassment to his father. You know, his name has been, I wouldn't even say solid, included in matters such as these. He's in there wanting to disrespect a senior, you know, and we realize that it's a pattern by the PNP, especially the younger members of the PNP. And I would want to believe, because they have not been chided on it, that tacitly sanctioned by the elders who are left in the PNP, for them to now disrespect members of the Jamaica Labour Party. They did it to the Speaker of the House, they did it to Desmond, and they did it to someone else recently. Right? And I saw them chuckling as if they did something wonderful. And we saw that, you know, Ice Pratt Backerman did it to the former DPP. And at no point in time were they chided for their behavior. But this is what the PNP produces.
But you know, Joshua, what is the known and evident is that the PNP weren't seeking state power in the interest of the development of Jamaica and the Jamaican people. This is something that goes back where you could look at the leader at a point where Jamaica was in one of its worst, most difficult situation in its history, a thing named FinSac. And rather than put in policies or advising the government in the interest of the Jamaica people, their interests came first. As you look at those things and you put it up and you say, yo, let we follow this, let we follow the money, or let we follow the trade of how these people act when they are in the seat of power. And we look right at this moment and see their action, how they deal with what they call it, the university hospital. All it shows that when PMP gains power, it is not in the interest of the broader society, but is in the interest of the few cronies that are around them. And Jamaican people must not just listen to words, because you have an ambassador from the United States said, Jamaicans must stop listening to announcements and start look at the things that are finished here in Jamaica. Look at the work, not the announcement. We can see who have the interest of Jamaica because we can see the projects that are finishing and the projects that are in process right at this moment. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at the two difference in how these people operate in the seat of power, Jamaicans must always take this into consideration when they are making a choice in the development of Jamaica, that one seeks to benefit cronies and one seeks to benefit the broader society. Jamaica.
Now we realize, Omar, that those cronies that they seek to benefit are not only in Jamaica, but across the way too. Because this agreement with Cuba was to benefit cronies. Those cronies was not in Jamaica. Right? And this incident now with with UWI and Jack then, we cannot depend on mainstream media, because the only media house that is bringing this as news is Nationwide. Every other media house, including the dying Gleaner, the dying RGR group, that's why they are so funded, you know. The dying RGR group is silent on this issue. This is the same group that had breaking news, because they said the Prime Minister did a build one house and violated a permit, but was silent when Dennis Garden constructed an entire 4-story building without a permit. Right? Without a permit. Is the same station that run all about Andrew, and he say Andrew giving his son a piece of property. But now there is a major scandal that even though I have never known a political party to be in corruption scandal while in opposition.
That's where I was going, Chucky. You know, but you missed something. The same media house plastered over their front page when the Prime Minister gave his son transfer his business to his son's name. But when the opposition leader lives in a house that he says doesn't belong to him, and when further checks were done, we found out that this house was transferred to his sons, they remain silent on it. $150 million house.
It's not just transferred to it, but it was when it was done, Joshua, when it was done. It was done just at the time when his statutory declaration would have had to be published. He transferred everything out of his name. And if that is not suspicious activity, I don't know what is.
I'm going to go further to Chuck. Last night I went on a PNP live. A lady named Charmaine. And she was quite cordial until one who is only fit for a certain place that is outdoor. with the name Roach, right, decided that I shouldn't have an opportunity to talk because their nonsense was being challenged. Not just nonsense, but the lies. Because they wanted to tell lie that the Prime Minister was averse to submitting information for his statutory declaration. And I would be given no opportunity at all to speak. None whatsoever. Every time I try speaking, he tried crowding me out. The host was a little more cordial until, she got caught up in it, right? But when I asked her if Mark Golding's statutory declaration for 2025 was certified, I was told Mark Golding is not the Prime Minister. And I said, but Mark Golding is seeking to become the Prime Minister. How much I'm disingenuous because they are talking about Andrew Holness. Eh? You notice how PNP reason?
Yeah, but again, Joshua, why are you surprised? We have been dealing with these people for years. We know they lack the ability to put thoughts together. Right? We know that. That is not surprising to us. Right? But the issue I'm having, and this is why I said it earlier, that the PMP go in any crowd that they can. Just at the off chance that they can get one word out. And as Labour rights, we have to start doing the same thing too. We have to start supporting the party. Now, there's something I wanted to say, and I think it needs to be said out loud. You have two political parties in Jamaica. The Jamaica Labour Party, which I support proudly, and the People's National Party, which I will never. Now, they both operate a certain way. The problem that I'm having is that you have some Labour rights that are angry at the Jamaica Labour Party for not behaving more like the PNP. Yes, they have Labour right that have that anger with their one party because their party are not behaving in the way that the PNP behave, especially with public resources. I support the Jamaica Labour Party. I know what I am supporting. I know how they behave. I know that when it comes to certain issues, they believe in doing for everybody, while the PNP believe in doing for the PNP. Right? Now, how do we curse the PNP for their action? But yet when the Labour Party is in power, we want them to do the same. That's confusion to me. Right? If we believe that when the government is doing something, it is to be done for every single Jamaican in the same urgency with everything right across the board. Everybody should have the same opportunity to get everything that the government has to offer. That is how the Jamaica Labour Party operates. That is the party where we support. And the party that we're against is a party that put their personal people above all else. And if you're a PMP, we get first. Everybody else have to wait until last. And we are against that. We hit out against that every day. But how do we now need the Jamaica Labour Party to act in the very same way?
I support your argument, Chuck. I didn't vote for a tribe. I vote for a government. And a government is responsible for all of Jamaica. We don't vote
all
for
of Jamaica. All of Jamaica. Right? So,
sorry.
Go ahead, Joshua.
Since you mentioned about certain members among us, last night I had a very spirited discussion wherein I believe that I was justified in calling one of our own a comrade. I believe that she was once one of us, but she has turned her back on the party and has crossed floors without saying that she has crossed floors.
I can't agree with such a pronouncement.
I don't agree with that view.
With all due respect, I cannot agree with such a pronouncement. As a matter of fact, the road here, and I'd say no. Let's not do that. We're not going there.
Hold on,
Malik.
Hold on, sir. I am saying that when you find a member of our own party, and it's not the first it was done, it's not the second time it was done, right? And I begin to see a pattern, and it is very disturbing. That is going to say that it's the worst the health system has ever been in the history of Jamaica. That was what was said last night. And in spite of the fact that the myriad of things that have been done were pointed out last night, the individual was saying, all of this is on paper. But what I'm saying, I'm just simply following what is written on paper. Right? That is what I was told, that I was simply following what was written on paper. Right? And still declaring that it's the worst the health system has ever been in the history of Jamaica. Pointed out the hospitals being built, the repairs, the health centers, the employment of new doctors, the employment of home health aid and nurses, the machines that are in different places, right, be it in the health centers as well as, and persons still insisted on sticking to that point, right? And it's not the first, because the other day when Andre Stevenson took time out to tell lie on 2 members of the party, that person spent more than an hour and a half on a live beating up on the Jamaica Labour Party. Again, I'm not talking about a balanced discourse, right? I sent even a message and I said, let us wait on the facts first before we make a declaration. When you can be so vociferous in tearing down a system that is far better than it was. When this party took over, there were an average of 34 to 1 nurse, 34 patients to 1 nurse. It's down to 8 now on an average. And plus an expansion of the NHF and all of those things. I cannot be comfortable hearing these kind of things. Do we have a perfect system? No, we don't. Does much more work needs to be done? Of course. A lot more. But we're going incrementally and we're making improvement. The Bustamante for Children Hospital, the improvement there, the expansion of it, the wards and all of these things.
You know, Joshua, the last time, I remember last week I was sent a recording with a member of our team on a platform with somebody, and I was asked, why is this person on this platform? And I say one thing, every single Labour Party blogger that is on social media do so of their own fruition. Them take up their own phone, them use their own credit, they use their own data, they use their own Wi-Fi, and they use their own time. And they come on social media and they speak on behalf of the party. So we cannot hold them tongue and tell them, say, this is what you are to say at this point. And that is the difference between the Labour Party bloggers and the PMP bloggers. If you pass 10 PMP platform for the day, all 10 of them will be repeating the same thing. No different, word for word, verbatim, everything will be word for word. Jamaica Labour Party is different because people are doing this on their own. And yes, Joshua, some of them opinion are going to vary, and I will challenge them down to the bone when me hear them go off key. When me hear them go off key. But that is a luxury where Labour Party bloggers have, where we can actually go off key and maybe challenge our own party. And that is what the discussion on social media should be. You know, we should be challenging, right? But the problem why we can't challenge is that we have people who how me describe them now? May I find one way to describe some comrade. We have people who, no matter what you put in front of them, will never see the good. So it does not give us time to say, as a labor right, you know, say, I think say you could have painted that blue instead of red. You know, give us time to say that, you know, Joshua.
My brother.
Right?
Chucky, I have
Yeah.
no difficulty with challenges. I believe we should challenge the government and the leadership of any ministry where there are shortfalls. But when you make a blanket statement to say it's the worst it has ever been, you tell me if that sounds like a challenge.
No, no, I don't. I would not agree with. I don't agree with that term. I don't agree with that pronouncement.
Sure.
Right, and I would challenge that pronouncement down to the ground.
Sure.
Right, I would challenge that pronouncement down to the ground.
Chuck, it
Just a
didn't just
minute,
stop there, no. It didn't just stop there, no. The person said that it's the worst it has ever been in the history of Jamaica. And if I'm wrong,
just a minute. Sure. Just a minute. You know, I have listened. From last night. You know, quite a bit. I'm listening to the same, and the conversation is straight down the line of the health sector. I mean, listen. I mean, know exactly the person and them thing there. But I think the person wants to challenge the system, but it's not articulating themselves in a way where it becomes a constructive criticism, but it more leave out there as if the person is against something. That is my whole idea of what I think the person is trying to do.
Accurate, Omalala. And I'm gonna chime in here. I was in that chat all day yesterday, even till slept, woke up in there. And the topic was basically people's experience in the healthcare system. And we have to also understand, Travis came in and said his piece, right? But we have to also understand that people's experience in the healthcare system is different. It's different. And irrespective you are PMP or JLP, whatever your experience is, you are going to speak about it. Some are traumatic, some are whatever, and they're going to speak out. And this is where this came from, because you had people in there that had experienced recently where their parent, a parent, mom passed away, went to the hospital, suspected to have a stroke. It was pretty much, when I, as a healthcare professional, listened to it, it was pure negligence on the part. Not only that, issues that have been addressed were customer service, because guess what? No one is saying that the government is not doing something in order to, put in infrastructure inside the hospital, building up the hospital, making beds, getting enough beds, and to improve the healthcare system around, like putting up health centers. Where I was strong on is that, Chuck, the country needs an education system as to deploy people that are not emergently ill to go to community centers. Do you understand? The critical care hospital, which are the big hospital with, MVAs, name it. These people, I'm thinking, should be the one at the hospital. You're having upper like the what you call it, food poisoning. You should be able to go to your you have a fever, you could be able to go to your community center. Those are not things that go. Now when the people who go to the regular hospital, and these people are sitting and waiting just for simple thing, they start complaining. The nurses are not so, when I listen to how the system is, they're not so empathetic. They say things and they hurt family members that are going through whatever. So this is where that came off, Chuck. And people have been talking about their loss, sitting down at hospital for hours for simple thing. I was even jokingly saying, hey, grandma had have constipation for days. Go give grandma some water and some senna tea and that kind of thing, so she doesn't sit there in pain, right? But that was where that was coming from, and that's the expression. Not that there is no improvement, but it's people's personal experience. And I think, irrespective of your party politics, listen, if you can't criticize your government, something is wrong, because it's not 100% proof. If you cannot, you have to, yes, we have to understand that in the climate of the environment in which we all are in, the other side is going to look at, hey, they're criticizing the healthcare system, but guess what, they too are talking about it. So if we behave as if it's not happening, we're condoning and dismissing people's experience when they go to these hospitals. And you yourself, Joshua, came out and said, well, you had a brother that was in the hospital for over a year because he was ill. So we have to always, not that nothing is not being done, but that things need to be, especially customer service, because it's nice for a nurse to say, you know what, Mr. Jones, you are in pain. I do understand. I respect that. But guess what? I have an emergency right now. Acknowledge. Don't tell them,
But the
shut up
thing
your
is,
mouth. You're not the
Empress.
only person and that kind of thing. You
But
understand?
the thing is, Empress, is that for every one bad experience that comes out of the hospitals, there are 5 people that have wonderful experiences,
And that is true, Chuck.
But guess what? When you have the good experience, nobody go and complain, say, boy, so I go down to the hospital, I get you too fast. I go down there and they serve me too. Those things don't make the news. Those things are not reported. When you go there, you get you, as I remember a couple years ago, there was interviewing somebody from the FBI and the news. And the question was asked, since 9/11, how many terrorist plots have you foiled? And the gentleman said, listen to me, only our failures are recorded, our successes are not. Because when we are successful, nothing happens. But when we fail, the world knows. So it's the same thing. The good experience, when you go there, it is supposed to be the norm. So when you go there, you get too fast, you get served with a smile. Nobody speaks on that. But if you go there now, you have to wait an hour. That is what you complain about, the hour that I have to wait. But as I said, for every one bad experience, there are 5 persons that has a wonderful experience at his hospital, but we don't know about those 5.
Empress,
Yes,
I
Joshua,
think you kind of miss what I'm saying. As I
tell me
said,
what you're saying.
you might have heard what I said, but I don't think it's soak or marinate.
So let it marinate a little bit. You put some garlic and some natural seasoning and let me understand.
I'm saying to you, I am not averse to someone criticizing the system or the weaknesses that exist. Let me pause there because I want it to marinate. I'm not averse to it. If you have a bad experience and you want to complain about it and talk about the improvements that can be made, sure, go ahead. It is your right and we should. But when you're going to broadside the system and say it's the worst, how does that equate to it being the worst in the history of our health system? That is the point that I'm making. And
Okay.
I cannot, under any circumstance, side with that kind of argument.
And I understand that, Joshua. I understand where you're coming from, right? But as I said to you, people are gonna say what they want to say based on their experience, right? Because hold on, here where she was coming from. Hold a second, Joshua. Here where she was coming from.
No, you mentioned that, and I'm not talking about.
No. I wanted to make another statement because I was there from start to finish, and that's why I wanted. And clearly, I mean, a lot of people were listening, and people are in the chat. It was Munchie. We're on a call, the thing with Munchie, and Munchie was saying, like it's where she has seen it.
I did to choose not to call any name.
Well, you know what? The people are in the chat who were there, and they are calling Munchie.
Right.
So I mean, everybody.
But there are others who was not aware.
I know, and there have been, and Joshua, there are people that have actually, if I tell you, there are people that have actually screenshotted it and posted it this morning, but not in that way that we thought, more or less, no. But here what it is. What she was saying is that when she drew the analogy of the security minister along with the health minister, and she's saying when the administration took over the health the security portfolio, it was in such disarray and disrepair. And it took the security minister to do a couple of changes, moving around until look at the success last year. What she is saying, hey, Mr. Health Minister, you might have to look at the bad apple inside the organization that is actually sabotaging, right? And that was a thing, was sabotaging, and get them out because it reflects negatively on the health system. And we were talking about the different chains of command. How does it report? Because everything happens. People say, hey, Mr. Health Minister, Mr. Health Minister. But we were talking about chains of command is the system matron, the regional, the permanent secretary, before it gets up to somebody even came in and say, hey, you know what? I think it was what's his name, but I don't remember his name, but whomever, he came in and what he said, hey, you know what, at Maypen, I can tell you that when they've had like a broken door and stuff like that, but when the minister was coming, hey, that door was fixed the day before, things are all pretty and nice before he would come in, because guess what? And then we're there suggesting that, hey, it could be that you do some mystery shopping. I asked, do they not get audit? And somebody said, no, they just don't get audit. Because I mean, that's kind of something that was going to help to improve the system, even though they're building and they're transforming and renovating, because it was given in a bad state, as you all said, right? I've experienced this going down. I took my sister there to Corner Regional, and guess what happened? I spent an entire night. You understand? I never quarreled. I never told anybody who I was. The only time that somebody had an inkling of who I was when I was actually talking and just talking back to the doctor. And she said, oh, you are XYZ. Oh, you do this. Where do you do this? You know, because you do have a language to which you talk, right? So they'll find out then. But I sat there quietly. I observed. I assessed. So that was where that was coming from last night. But we have to respect what other people have felt. And I mean, I dare to tell her what her experience was and why she should say or not say. And I close my mic.
But Empress, I am still saying to you,
If I may,
it's not a lack of respect for anyone's experience. I have no difficulty with expressing your personal experience. That's your experience. No one has a right to even try and diminish your experience. But also no one has a right to tear down something and be referring to it as the worst. That is where I'm stuck. Everything that you have said, I heard it. Remember, I gave credence to the argument yesterday to say, hey, there are persons that need to be moved out. And I even pointed to the fact that the new person sitting in the person who was removed and the one that replaced him is a known comrade because I know him personally, right? And I don't believe that he should be there. But what I have an issue with is not you talking about your experience, because your experience can be mentioned. But when not only are you mentioning your experience, but you want to exaggerate, because when it was mentioned that even going on the HDU ward, only 3 machines were there, that's not true. I know how much machine is there. I know how much machine is at the HDU ward. And I know of a fact that persons are diverting people to Jack them to go and do dialysis down there.
And I've heard that too, Joshua.
Right? So this is not a matter of trying to diminish anyone's experience. All I'm saying is that we must be responsible in our commentaries and not try to totally dismiss the work that was done and also broadside the work that was done because we want to make a point. We have to be responsible in how we go about doing what we have to do. Right? My brother's experience was not perfect. But guess what? I will talk about it in a responsible way. And since you have access, she herself mentioned that she messaged the minister. That's fine.
You know what I wonder, Joshua? And I wonder this about myself all the while. And I wonder that should I still be alive when the PMP get back a chance at state power? Should I not be senile and can still operate a telephone and be on social media if I'm still allowed by my grandchildren back then? my grandchildren would allow me, you know, to still. Would I be critical of stuff that I know is good for Jamaica because is the PMP doing it? I ask myself that question every day. And my answer is no. But am I lying to myself? I don't know if you understand what I'm asking. In that, will I be a today's comrade who, even though me see the things that happen, they may not be perfect and they may not be timely, will I be the same thing hitting out against stuff that I know is good for Jamaica because of who doing it? Because that's basically where we are now, you know. Right? I cannot, and I will not support the notion that the health system is bad. What is bad is service in the health system. And yes, I will criticize the service in the health system because I think that's where the far shot is.
Chuck? And I said that too, Chuck. I say that it's very bad.
Yes.
But Chuck,
hello, Angel.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, the panel.
Hold on, Angel, if you don't mind.
No, good afternoon until the camera come on. No, good afternoon until no, Chuck, everything stop, everything pause. When people
no camera can't turn on.
We have to allow people to wheel forward.
I gave orders.
Turn on the camera so that we can move forward. Thank you very much.
Shavi, I have spoken.
I can't hear you, Chuck. I can't hear you, Chuck. I don't see your box lighting up. I can't hear you. Yeah.
My camera.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, look at me. Angel, I am putting my foot down. Look at me. I put on my foot down. What kind of Angel, my foot is down.
Yeah.
Turn on the camera.
Yeah. Listen, Angel, I can't talk in my turn. I will be quiet and listen to you. Go ahead.
Okay, darling. So I wanted to remind you guys, yes, that I had an experience with the hospital where I lost the aunt. I know Chuck probably remember the story where my nephews and them went to Jamaica to visit their mom. They went to the beach in St. Anne's Bay, and complication, we had to rush her aunt to the St. Anne's Bay Hospital. I'm just giving you a little history of what happened to my family. We lost our aunt, and it's not any fault of the system. It was a fault of the people, not the system. The nurses and the people that were there were so nonchalant and so uncaring. When we brought her in, my aunt, my nephew's mother, when we brought her in, my nephew's wife is a nurse in New York City. Her mother-in-law came with her. They're from Africa. Both of them are nurses. One is a nurse practitioner. And they couldn't believe how the nurses behaved, how they acted when we brought his mother in. Even to the point when the nurses, his wife is asking him, "Are you going to check for a pulse?" And she just, with no care, disregard. No, why would we? She's already gone. How do you know she's already gone? When the nurse practitioner told you she's been doing CPR from the beach, non-stop CPR from the beach to the hospital. How do you determine that a person is gone? You can't just check a radial pulse. That's not how it works. So I have had the experience more than once with the hospital system in Jamaica, Montego Bay, St. Anne's Bay, and Kingston Public and University because of my father. And I will tell you this, that they have what is needed. It is the people. It is the people. How can we fix that? No matter how, if Dr. Christian Tufton or whoever it is goes in there and change the pyramid from the top to the bottom, we have to change the mindset of we, the people. It is the people. It is the people. I work in healthcare system right here in Jersey and New York. And I'm telling you, it is such a big difference. It is such a big difference. It's like the whole thing has changed. People are in this just for money, and they have no empathy, no sympathy, and they don't give a one rat's ass. They don't care. And most of them are really political, if you want me to be honest about it too. But I've been through it. I know what it is. And I'm listening to you guys talking, and we can all say what we want to say, but it is the truth. My nephew lost his mother, not because of the system. They had equipments and whatever needed. They didn't do anything because of the nurses and the lack of care, empathy, and the attitude.
Again, two things. And like I said, no, for every one bad experience that comes out of these places, there are 5 good ones. And I say, when my mother was doing her operation at UWI, the nurses up there could not have been nicer. But I also believe that nurses, when you go to a hospital, they treat you different when they believe you have somebody around you that cares about you.
Correct.
If you lay down in the hospital for 3 days, nobody can look for you. Them treat you like an outcast, because you're not nobody. But if you have people, if you have visitors, 10 or 15 visitors come visit you every day, the treatment is different. In a waiting room, if you are sitting there by yourself, you probably not get any attention. But if you have people sitting around you, where every time one nurse passes, and can say, nurse, it is different. So Dr. Tufton and the government, by extension, can buy equipment or for the food. We can't put every piece of equipment we need in every hospital where we need until we're full. It's not gonna change, because the problem we face is not a lack of equipment. Even if our equipment at the hospital is not working in today's Jamaica, it is so set by the government that if you go to an equipment does not work, the government will send you to a private facility at no cost to you to get it done. So our problem is not equipment. We have equipment. My foot put on again, you know. Oh. We have equipment. The problem what we face is service. And we had the conversation with Chika the other day when we were mentioning J-Ras, I give you Rose, J-Ras, don't make me fall out, you know. Oh. Okay. We were like, it was the customer service part. Now, how do we change that? How do we change that? There was a time in Jamaica where nurses and teachers were 2 of the most respected professions we have.
Again.
People in,
flash the ponytail again one more time before you go. Wow.
Yeah,
it's always a pleasure seeing and listening to you, Angel. Honestly.
Yeah, put on my foot.
Chocolate on your turn.
Right?
I want to say something. I want to criticize the minister after you finish talking.
All right. So it doesn't matter the amount of equipment we buy. So what is the solution to this problem of the service in the sector? I wish there's no magic fix to it, right? But years now we know this. But the problem what we have is that majority of the discussion around this thing has been about equipment. But the equipment is not the problem. Equipment in the system is not the problem. The system, it does not have everything we need, but if the service was better, if we had service with a smile, if we had patience from the top, it would be far better. And now what we need is people who care about people to take up this position, and people who are sabotaging the system is to be found and removed from the system. You have to start removing them. We need what is now called minimum service standard to be put in place. These service standard needs to be advertised right across the system. When you walk into one of these systems, you need to see what is the minimum service standard that is to be expected. And if you don't get that minimum service standard, you have a report mechanism that you go through to report it. So I go to this place and I did not get this service, and then it is taken from there. But something has to be done. Amalo.
But no, Travis said.
Hold on. It has become, I don't know what happened or what changed with the dynamics of the conversation, but it has become increasingly hard to listen to your Chuck, knowing that there are other beautiful voices around. I would yield my time to, the general lady if she'd like to say something else or maybe turn on her camera,
If she ever
and then
mute her.
we will move on from there. Chuck, why are you so why are you so aggressive today and combative? What's going on? I don't understand why Chuck behave like this. But and the matter being discussed, when I joined the program, the conversation. Oh my Lord, my boss is here. My boss is here. My boss is here. My boss is here.
Travis, I hear you.
No, bossy, but bossy, me not step out the line. I didn't do anything out of the way, bossy.
You don't behave yourself.
No.
Make sure
Bossy, if you don't know anything else about me, please know this. I can appreciate a beautiful woman.
Me never said nothing, but me say Angel birthday is coming up March 12th.
Yes.
Make sure you have your lion.
Hold on, guys. Let me answer a question there from Fabulous. Fabulous, how do we remove them? we remove them by setting a minimum standard of service. Right? I believe that is the easiest way to go. We set a minimum standard, and if you fall out of this standard, we have a procedure that leads you to discipline, reprimand, or whatever, till it leads to removal. It is simple.
That is in place.
Minimum standard.
That is in place. But guess what? Some people who are supervisors are not grading these persons properly when their PMAS, the performance evaluation time comes around. That is the thing.
Chuck, me hear you say something a long
There's
time
a
ago,
breakdown.
and me have to agree with you, and I think it's the right time now I bring it up. You say, when there's a change of government, we must adopt the US style, where people go with their party, people stay with their party.
Simple.
Because whether we like it or not, politics is playing a lot in the kind of service that is being dispensed to the people in Jamaica. Politics is
Thank you. You notice I'm being silenced though. You realize that I'm being silenced. I am just because me say, yes, Angel, flashing here. I'm being silenced. I'm a boss.
It happens in Jamaica now.
I'm a boss. Me can't understand. I mean, not working. No, to do you. I'm a boss. I deal with me so.
It happens in Jamaica too, Chuck.
One boss, man. One boss.
It happens in Jamaica too. That is why you say.
It only happens at a certain level.
But it cannot happen with the civil servants. It cannot happen. Say it stop at the PS, say who is a civil servant, and you cannot just get up and remove that person from a post that she elevated in.
Let me tell you something. That's why we say we need to change those things. You see, when you have JLP CEOs or PNP CEOs, permanent secretaries, things will flow different because these people are known for who they are. You understand what I'm saying? Me as a labor right and a PNP boss, you think that me can go show my PNP colors or my labor right colors? Things will be different. And we would have make sure the boy entity is run properly. Me remember before the parish council election, there were many contracts sitting in a particular parish council. No approval now come out. Because guess what? They have to sabotage the government. So things have to change. Things change. The things that some people must go according to their political allegiance. That's just my thoughts. I agree with Chuck.
Yeah, and that is it. I remember, Bobby Montague from the Minister of National Security. Oh, sorry, Omar, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to criticize the minister.
Which one?
I want to criticize the Minister of Health.
I still have Chuck. I mean, I still have Tufton in my top performing ministers, you know. I still have him on that list.
No, I still have him as one of the top performing minister. But listen to my criticism of the minister. And maybe we're not perfect here. We just give you opinion based on things. I think what the minister should have done was build a model. Yeah, make one of the hospital the model of what all the other rest of treatment and hospital is going to be. I think he stretches on too far when there is too much clinics and hospital in development at the same time. That really kind of stretch out everything, and a lot of people don't get to see it. One, I say, this is what the model is going to be. This is going to be what everybody is, the standard by which everybody must meet to treat the Jamaicans. This is what, you understand what I'm saying? When you are trying to fix up all of the broken houses and everything is not at 100 and everything is at 60 and 70%, people are going to be complaining. But if there is a model that everybody could point to, then everybody will then anticipate all the rest coming on stream would be like this. And I think that's where we went wrong.
Yeah, but we do have, all right, maybe not in terms of the hospital, but when you look at the health center, we do have models health center that we can look to in terms of it's physical, it's equipment, it's personnel and all these things. So we have these things that we can look to. But the problem is, like I said, for every one bad story, there are 5 good ones. But the good ones don't get the highlights.
And you know where I see people complain most about, Chuck? I know the clinic, them in the hospital, you
know. Government of Jamaica Service Excellence Policy. You need to go and read that document.
Because you have patient, you have something at the university or the hospital, and I know of it, where you could
before you move on, Amala, before you move on,
go ahead.
Let me ask you. Let me say this first. Before there's change, there's chaos. That is the first thing. You mentioned that the minister,
and the answer is no.
The minister should have had one model hospital. What prevented him from having at least one model hospital?
Well, I think it's the extension of trying to fix everything. Too much, the stretching of the capital, the capital fund, where every budget there is a certain amount of money come out.
Amala, stop it, Amala, stop it, man, stop it. You know better than that. Yeah, go and let one of the hospital them a bill and one run out of money, and because them a build the other one. No, man, don't do that, brother. You're more intelligent.
Let me explain myself, please. Let me explain myself.
No, you explain yourself very clearly a while ago, and what you say is nonsense. Because all these things we do at once.
Are you saying that every year?
All these things that we do at once is needed.
Are you saying
on the history? When you look on the history. When you look at Trelawny Hospital, Maypen Hospital, Mandeville Hospital, them all built within a 10-year period, you know. You understand me? So these things have to be done all at once. So the police station needs to be fixed, the road needs to be fixed, the clinic needs to be fixed. A central government to do it. You look from Dr. Tufton, a central government to do it, not Dr. Tufton. All right, these things are needed, boss. Because guess what? They're going to finish in a particular period of time where it will serve the whole country. So if they build one and left the other rest of them, then they're going to start all over again. You know how long a hospital take to build? Trelawny Hospital start in a 68 or 69. It then done about 74 or 75. That's how long a hospital take to build, boss. Stop it, man.
You're talking about from behind the time. If you have money, hospital can build in a one day. If you have money, hospital can build in a one day. Maybe like 10,000 square foot place in a couple of months because all of the money was there. Yeah, and I have seen it. I have seen where, as long as the money is there and based on what our budget is run, there is a certain amount of money that is allocated.
That's because at no point in time me see the work done on original stuff is something I think of money. That's the problem.
Yo, let me tell you something. Canal regional,
That's nice. Yeah, the top side very cute.
China, it done in a one day.
Hello. Omalo, have you visited Cornwall Regional and the new adolescent hospital?
Do I have to visit it?
No, me ask a question. Have you visited it?
Do I have to visit it to know that it's
Me don't know if you visited. Me say if you visited, yes or no?
Do I have to visit it to
Jesus
know that
Christ.
finished?
May I say if have you?
You remember
Brother,
that we had a cat
I have done a
hurricane?
site visit. Well, I'm not outside the hurricane. I've done a site visit on both hospitals. You understand me? Me stream both hospitals when construction are going, right? I remember saying, no, they might do Chest Hospital at the same time. They might do UV Hospital at the same time. They might do KPH at the same time. They might do Spurgeon Hospital at the same time. They might do clinics at the same time, right? And I'm saying to you, sir, these things are needed to be done because it's not like the one of them are done at the same time, you know. Each of them are done at different intervals that are needed, boss.
There is a certain amount of money got to come out the capital budget to allocate to these things.
Boss. And it's not a shot. Well, I know. All right.
Jamaica don't unlimited funds.
Question I can ask you. Has the Cornwall Regional Hospital stopped because of shortage of funds or labor?
If it's not,
so what's the problem there? That means some money there to build it.
I do based on what the money is going to spend. I perform my work based on how much money I have.
There's an estimate something like 23 or 24 billion dollars for building, and we don't reach that.
Hold on.
If I only have $10, I'm going to make sure we have $10 worth of work done. If I have 100 million, and 100 million is going to finish it in 1 year. It's going to finish in 1 year.
All right, can I cut in, please? But can I butt in a little bit? I think Amala has been a little unreasonable because not even here in the US, the hospital not take all our year for bill. So let me say this, right? A hospital is not. Hold on, Amala. A hospital and a house is two different things. A hospital. Hold on, Amala, darling. I'm not fight with you. Do I have to turn on?
To what I'm saying and talk about house and them something. China bill of 15.
All right, let me silence. Come realize. Hold on, Amala, my darling, Amala. What I'm saying is a hospital is so much different. There's so much more. It's
goody.
There's so much more that it has to be done in a hospital. Like
I think you have to come out of the Western world and go looking at China. How they build a hospital in a 10 year.
And we're not building a hospital in China. We're building one in Jamaica, Amala. What I'm saying is, Amala,
limited resources. That's why they could do it. We don't have unlimited resources. That's why we construct our hospital based on the cash we have per annual, per annum,
So what you're saying is the reason why the hospital is taking the time it's taking is because of the amount of cash that we have per annual. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, very much so.
How is that so? How is that so, Amala?
That is what you have to spend.
No, because I went to the hospital. Amala, I went to the hospital myself. I was there.
Are you going to spend if you are doing construction? Are you going to spend more than you have to spend?
But Amala, while I was there, Amala, work have always been. No work has never stopped a day because of lack of equipment or lack of our funds or resources.
Let me try something here. I think I said so. What Omaro is saying is that the government presently a bill for hospital. So in this budget, them allocate 5 billion to Cornwall, 3 billion to Spanish Town, and 2 billion to UA. Now, if we did just do Cornwall alone, would have 10 billion to Cornwall.
And it done already.
And then we'd have put 10. But as what Punkos said now is that then would that take that 5 years, would that take 3 years upon a one day, then after 3 years, go start that one day, and then we're going to start that one day. But the works, Omalo, is not, it have to contribute to a lot of sectors, right? So the construction sector is benefiting because all the hospitals are going up at once. So it's a big picture. It's a big picture, but we wish we could have done it that way. The way it has to be done because we are in a situation where we don't know how long we have to get these things done. So we have to start them. Right? I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Say, rather than split the $10 million between three, you could have put the 10 billion one place. And it would have probably get it done.
I have seen with projects finish.
Area get service.
Hold on. Hold on there. Hold on there. Every time I try to talk, me get cut off. Don't make me get a talk. Please, that should be a big up Angel.
I know,
no, man, that should because
move your pen to somebody else.
If I should, no, but the boss, you what now? Angel, me not talk to you, me talk to me, I say.
Okay.
The fastest growing economy in this part of the world. The fastest economy in this part of the world, the fastest growing one is actually Guyana. Guyana have way more resources at the time, like right now, than Jamaica has, and they are in the process of building hospitals, and they are being built over time too. In a building now 1 year, like you're saying, Omalo, because the technology that is existing in China that can do what they're saying, we don't start them a building practice there. We don't start them a technology there. Come on, man. Not even the US to do that right now.
China Harbor that can do it. Every project is determined by the cash that is there. Most of the time, 90% of the time, me not ask me not look within just the Western world or looking at America to compare. Projects most of the time, roads and all of these things are finished based on how much money is allocated to the project and how quick it's supposed to finish.
So I guess them
let's put some taps on the screen,
I guess them
please.
allocate the money to Van Wyck Express because about 20 years that the goddamn road are fixed and can't do fix.
America run down. The billionaire them rob the money. Van Wyck Express, America run down.
About 100 years, the Van Wyck and the Bell Parkway are fixed and can't do fix.
They know the amount of money allocated to it.
But guys, listen, it's simply put is that this in terms of the physical structure, the sector needed an overhaul, and the overhaul had to come. Yes, Philip, me find it. Me actually have it on the screen now. The sector needed an overhaul in terms of its physical structure. It needed to be done. Yes, they are doing 3 at once. Yes, but that's just the way it has to be done because guess what? These 3 places needed to be upgraded, and one of them couldn't wait, so we have to start the work now.
So Chuck, labor rights, what are you guys arguing about? Because I'm confused. The fact of the matter is, these hospitals in Jamaica were run down over the years under PMP. Our health system was a shamble. Our roads was a mess. We didn't even have water in our pipes where I live in Portland. Well, the hospital in Port Antonio was a piece of Carnation Market type thing. I'm confused. What are we arguing about? If the government have fixed 4 of them and that take 5 years, what are we arguing about? I'm just confused. Labor, what are really do? What are the fun?
We're about the Cuban situation.
Chuck, Chuck. We're meeting at the meeting with Tufton. You understand me? I can ask Chapa John this. Tufton say that facility here I got bigger than you and better than you when it done. You understand me? And him say if them did lit down the hospital and start new, it would have done already. Not only that too, all new equipment the both hospital them again, everything new services and training for fix them and maintenance and that and insurance. Not only that, Tufton say, my biggest problem now, how me gonna staff the complex, I come to the complex, I gonna need so much staff. Nurse, ancillary staff, and maintenance, he must say him don't know where to come from. Because the other hospital them I got upgrade to and got need extra staffing too. So he say him don't know where them people are come from. He say we definitely gonna look outside, a whole heap of outside medical practitioners. I'm saying him say not even that, just the regular, the non medical staff. Him say a whole heap of people that go take. You understand me? So me not
I said yesterday. I say yesterday that you have whole heap of nurses and teachers will leave Jamaica, so them are going to look greener pastures. But for a lot of people, Jamaica is greener pastures. Lots of people. You people, as we say, people never know the use, cow never know the use until fly take it, So for a lot of people, Jamaica is greener pastures. So people in Cuba, the same Cuban them where you say that Jamaica is the greener pastures for them. It's just that even when they're in Jamaica, the rope is still there on them neck. But there are places right across the Caribbean where people will be willing and happy to come to Jamaica and work. There are nurses that are in the U.S. that are returning home in bundles. Because guess what? Situation, despite what you might hear on social media, situations have changed. And a lot of them saying, if this was what I had, I would not have left. Including the salary. The salary, it is not perfect, But majority of them is saying, if this was what was when I was here, I would not have left. Some people are coming back, and when Cornwall and children and adolescents finish, more will come back. So it will be staffed. Not to mention, 2 years ago, the government started its own program to send people to do public health. Right? So it will be staffed. We'll have people. The Cubans leaving is not the end of healthcare in Jamaica. It will only get better.
Remember, I said me a one person, me give ratings to the minister. But I was just giving my suggestion as to how I see things. Well, just a while ago, I don't have two phones in my hand right now, but I have one. I'm going to do a little AI, chat GPT. How does government projects determine if I don't know exactly what I wrote inside of it, asking it if it is determined by the amount of money allocated to it. And exactly, you can Google it and it will explain to you that is money allocated, through budget, determine speed, timeline, material, and everything. So we know these things. Unlimited fund. Jamaica, we don't have unlimited fund. And we are doing things in a very...
Marlon, so you don't understand. We have to explain something to you, not understanding, Well, yeah, say if you put all of the resources at one hospital with a bill, you understand me? Right? And you have to understand, say, the need.
But if you done it in a 6 months, you start the rest of the
No, because guess what? You'd leave back behind another set of people who would not need the service of the hospital. Hello? Chuck?
Yeah, man. I wonder if I'm internet chip
we hear it, but what happened is that Punkus was saying something and then you came in. So I guess he stopped because he wanted you to finish what you were saying. But if I can add something to the conversation. I understand what Omalo is saying, I understand what Omalo is saying. Even though it sounds very idealistic, but what happened is the government has to do what is in the government's best interest and what